And our next CLE is Build Your Business Plan for Success with Kerry Lavelle. I've actually interviewed Kerry before, and you're in for a big treat today. Kerry is a lawyer in Schaumburg, Illinois, and he focuses in business, real estate, taxation, grocery practice, which is kind of interesting, banking, and estate planning. And some fun facts about Kerry are that he's the author of the Business Guide to Law. It's creating and operating a successful law practice, and it's published by the ABA, and you can find that on the ABA website. He's currently in the process of publishing his second book through the ABA and expects it to be available later this year. For the legal profession, but also for teaching and giving back to the community whenever possible. And actually, in the interview I did with Kerry before, he went into a great deal of detail about that. It's really some amazing stuff that he gives back to the community. And actually, you could check out that podcast if you go to glsaonline.org. You could find my interview with Kerry there. Also, in his spare time, which I'm sure there's not much of, he's which is outside of diligently providing the highest quality legal work and to his clients and community. He also moonlights as a wine connoisseur, and he is also among the very few White Sox fans that bleeds Cubby Blue contingently, of course, upon jurisdiction. And the only boss in his book is the one and only Bruce Springsteen, who takes a distant second to his amazing wife. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Kerry Lavelle.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. These are topics I'm really passionate about talking about, and I can go at them for hours, days, and weeks. And this topic today is about building a business plan for your business to just kill it in work and every day you go to work. And you really do have to have a plan to be successful, and you can't really manage without it. And today we're going to talk about the things that are needed in a business plan. And I'm talking about a real business plan. I'm talking about committing it to writing. I'm talking about making it real to you. And in order to be successful, you got to have that. It is your sort of checklist. It is the way you go about your business every day. We will get into things like long-term goals in your business plan, but it's more than that. It's looking at your entire business and saying, how can I become what I am not? How can I do better at all the nuances that are required in making it happen every day you go out and practice law? It's not intended to be the kind of business plan with a lot of frothy pro forma. This is how much money I'm going to make that you take to a bank and they're going to lend you money on it, like you hear with small businesses. It's not intended to be that way. It's your constitution. It's your constitution, and it's to make you successful. The truth of the matter is, it's just 8 categories of items, 8 categories, and we're going to touch on all of them today. And some of them alone could become the source or an entire weekend retreat to go over how to get better at certain areas. But I'm going to touch on every single thing. Today will be the ultimate checklist for you as you review your business and how you can improve on all these areas of the law. It's like spoiler alert, it requires incredible disciplines, and it requires every day rolling up your sleeve to go to work and get these things done. But if you create the business plan, you commit it to writing, it will help guide you every single day as you go forward. It's just 8 items. Number 1, what are your goals? What are your goals? There's a book out right now. One of my friends told me about checking it out. It's called like 18 weeks or 12 weeks or something like that. And the author's position is you can't really manage out beyond about 12 weeks. I don't really kind of agree with that. I think you can control things that happen within a couple of months, but you still have to have that finish line. You got to have a goal that you're looking out towards. And I believe in a 1-year plan. I believe in a 5-year plan. I believe in a 10-year plan. Just ironically, no kidding, on January 1st of 2018, we completed our first 10-year business plan at our office. And I went through it, and we went through the things we scored on. We went through the things we came up a little short on. We talked through why we came up short on it. We did quite well, quite frankly. And just recently, I remodeled now an extension for another 10 years in our business. So in these goals, we have already kind of looked at where we want to be in 10 years. So for example, now these are examples. They're intended to only be examples. In your 1-year, 5-year, 10-year plan, and all the other components of this business plan have to belong to you. They're not me telling you what they are for you. They have to be yours. So for example, depending on where you are, if you just started your practice, you've been practicing 5 or 10, 15 years, you got to think, where do you want to be 12 months from today? Maybe you want to hire an administrative assistant. Maybe you want to get a real live accounting professional involved in your business. Maybe your goal should be open 5 new files a month. Could you do that? Paying clients, the real deal. Cross-sell legal services to 25% of your client base. If you have a mixed kind of practice where you do some residential real estate or some estate planning or family law, could you do more services for each of your clients? Could you do that? Can you bill, if you were an hourly biller, can you bill 30 hours a week? And can you do that on somewhat of a consistent basis? Can you literally fight to do that 40 weeks a year? You have to document that stuff, and that's part of the business plan, is what measurables that you need to keep track of. Can you collect on 90% of billing? You keep increasing your billing every month and every year, but if your collections go from 90% to 80% to 70%, what are you really accomplishing? So you have to stay on top of all those things, and you have to measure them. So this is just suggestions for a 1-year plan. Should you have a systematized document scanning and storage? How do you keep your documents? I don't know, it's probably about 7, 8, 9 years ago, we decided we're taking all our paper files and converting them and scanning them in. And it was a big, long process. We had boxes and boxes and pallets of boxes in an offsite storage facility that we paid rent on every month. It took us a year, maybe even 14 months of bringing in college kids to stay in front of scanners and monitors and scan stuff in. We took these old files and we triaged them. We threw out the junk, shredded it. We took true documents, live documents. We sent them to the clients, and everything we needed, we scanned in. It was a monster of a project. But now we don't have to rely on anybody to go get documents for us from an offsite storage. They're all right on a server. Move into one new practice area. It doesn't have to be a criminal lawyer doesn't have to move into estate planning, but estate planning attorney should move into some probate work, or a family law lawyer should move into some guardianship, prenups, related areas of the law. Collect and report law office data and measurables. There's a lot on that coming up. On your 5-year plan, do you want to have 3 to 5 new attorneys, add 500 clients? It seems like a lot, 500 clients, especially when in a previous 1-year plan, I said get 5 new files a month. That would be 50 or 60 a year. So remember, as you're ramping up, you can't use last year's expectations for this year if you're doing better. If you can open 5 new files a month and you partner up or you hire another employee that believes in marketing like you do, maybe you should start clicking at 10 a month. And over a course of time, as you ramp up and everything starts to grow, in 5 years from now, you're not going to be the same law firm you were today. And you have to kind of think along those lines. Allocate some management duties to other attorneys or other people in the office. If you're a solo and you're starting to grow your practice, or there's 2 or 3 people in your office, you can delegate some of that management to somebody else. Take a socially important case pro bono. As lawyers, we need to do that. And that will change the direction of your firm if it's consistent with your core purpose. And we'll get to that. Connect with 5 new referral sources per year. Imagine if you got out and had 5 new referral sources a year. That's 1 every other month, less than 1 every other month, that actually referred your business. So just kind of fast forward there. You'll lose a little bit to attrition. So at the end of year 2, you might have 8 or 9. At the end of year 3, you might have 12 or 13. At the end of year 5, you might have 18 to 20. Imagine that. if you started to go at the business plan and looked at every day what you needed to do, in 5 years, you can have almost 20 people referring you cases on a regular basis if you met your goals. It's important, and it takes a lot of effort to get out there and market. Chair a bar association committee, for Pete's sake. You can do that. You don't have to. You don't have to be magic. You just have to roll up your sleeves and be involved in a bar association, both the ABA and a local bar association. Serve on a board of one of the local non-for-profits. Trust me, once you start volunteering for things, they're going to want you to be part of the board. They're going to want to bring you in. And it's good networking. Us as lawyers, we need to be leaders, and that's the way we could take a leadership role in these kind of organizations. Establish firm culture, core values. What is your North Star? Why do you get out of bed every day to go to work? What are you really trying to accomplish? And then lastly, collect data and management reports. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. When we talk about management of the firm, you have to have numbers. You have to have empirical data to be able to manage. And there are a lot of things to measure in a law office. And when you stack it up month to month, year to year, quite frankly, in some of these areas, we check it out week to week. We could see where we're going. 10-year plan. Again, literally in the last 8 weeks, I projected out to 2028 and where our law firm is going to be. And, you know, it shocks a few people, but we're going there. We're going there. So what do we need to do today to get there? We need to get our principles right. We need to get our infrastructure right. We need to get our foundations right so we can get to where we're going to be in 10 years. Can you add 1,500 clients in 10 years? Could you get a second location, open a second office, create some big audacious goals, and be out there and stick your neck out and try to shoot for those big goals? But you won't hit any of them if you don't meet certain assumptions. You got to hit the assumptions. I don't know what those are for you, but they're going to be something like the firm has to meet or exceed your billing goals. You got to get the people in. The firm's got to collect on receivables to a certain percentage. All attorneys and support staff have to improve their core purpose of why they come to work, and they believe in your core purpose. Marketing has to be institutionalized. Everybody who comes into the office has to be able to be out in a social situation and talk proudly of what they do and what your office stands for. If they don't, then you're kind of a fake, and they don't believe in what you believe in. And you have to talk the talk, and you have to walk the walk. You got to do it the right way so everybody in the office can speak proudly of what the firm does. You need proper compensation structure for everybody, of course, and attorneys have to stop work when clients stop paying, and sometimes that's easier said than done. So when you did part one and you start creating goals for yourself, you have to ask yourself, as a leader, as the leader of the firm, or if you work at a firm, does your leader conduct himself or herself properly? And what kind of leader is she or he? First thing is, as a leader, you got to start thinking about what's the next generation of leadership going to look like. And you have to think like that. You have to act and speak in a way where people adopt what the firm is all about and how you do things. You know you got a great leader when the firm comes first and not any single individual agendas come first. You have to put the firm first. I founded our firm, founded about 27 years ago, 26, 27 years ago. And it didn't take me long to understand that the firm comes first, not my ego, not my, doing what my own thing was, because everybody wins when the firm wins. You know, the expression about all boats rise in a rising tide or whatever that is. That's really true. Everybody will do better off when the firm does well. Great leaders are more like a plow horse than a show horse. There's no glitz and glamour. That's the way it is on TV and in the movies. But in the real world, you lead by working hard and doing the right things and treating people the right way. That's the long haul secret to success as a leader of the firm. Concentration, the concentration on work. Well, I'll tell you, there's everybody has the right to be a little scatterbrained every now and then, right? That's kind of happens. But concentration on a personal work level and a concentration on a law firm level is staying on task, getting things done. And when you're the leader of the firm, people are constantly interrupting you. The computer's not working. The copy machine's not working. I can't get this thing filed. I'm having a problem getting into our online research. So you got to be able to also be a worker in the law firm and be an attorney, and that means concentrating on certain things and blocking out time to be able to get things done. So concentration is doing the work that needs to be done. However, when you get these constant interruptions, discrimination is taking all of those things and only focusing on the ideas that are critically important to the firm. There are some things you just have to move out of the way and focus on that which is important. Um, it's not only your to-do list, but it goes to the whole firm. You don't waste time on unnecessary things, and you got to block out the noise. And I don't need to tell anybody in this room that in this digital age, you get a lot of digital noise. You know, your email inbox is just bombarded with stuff. It's just bombarded with stuff. And you have to be able to sort through that to get to what's important. Be organized on a personal level as a leader and get the firm organized. Don't let the firm be confused between what tasks are important to what tasks are not important. You as the leader have to make it very clear what's important and don't get messed up in a lot of noise that takes your eye off the ball. There are certain things in your office and decisions that have to be made that if they're not made or not addressed, the firm will go under and you will not be practicing law anymore. If it's not critical, don't focus on it. But as you kind of get through your goals and work through your goals, you'll be able to do more than one thing at a time. The harshest thing at one time I've heard is, people trying to take on 10 to-dos in the next year and you get 0 done. But if you take on about 3 things to do in the next year, you'll be able to knock them off and succeed. And those are the kind of things you need to do. Innovation is fun. Think of go to events like this. Listen to people who talk about software that works. Listen to things that are done differently. Even something like building a business plan. That's changing the culture of the firm, changing the way you do things, and that's innovation. You need to be able to do that. And the last thing is you need to be a good communicator. You need to be a good communicator. And I always say, it doesn't do any good if you just talk the talk. You got to do it all. You got to act like a leader. You got to do the right things, but you also have to talk about why you're doing the right things so people get some energy behind you and fill your sails up a little bit so you're doing all the right things and going in the right direction. So we talked about goals, we talked about the leader, and then there's the management structure of the firm. If you're a solo, let's face it, you're doing everything on your own and you're probably doing everything in every function. But as you grow or as a firm grows and you get other people working for you, there's going to be ways to sort of delegate some work. But in this particular part of our presentation, it's about figuring out what to measure. Any good leader, a management team of a corporation will tell you that you have to have data. You have to have data, real data. And if you want to go through your law practice for the next 30 years and just kind of go by feel, yeah, we're busy, we're doing good, we're busy, that's okay. That's okay. But that doesn't challenge you to beat the data from last year, this year, and it doesn't challenge you to beat the data from this year, next year. You have to have tangible numbers to kind of try to beat. So it comes in different type of measurables. The first ones are simply financial. You should be measuring your monthly, you should be having monthly financial statements. Are you a cash basis or accrual basis taxpayer? My guess is you're a cash basis taxpayer. We can debate that for hours, which is better, but professional service businesses, generally cash basis, and reporting for tax purposes, you would do the exact same thing. How many new clients you sign up every month? What's your gross billing every month? Collections. You bill this much, you collect some other amount, you have to be on top of that. What are your bank deposits on a regular basis? Do you know in the middle of the month, are you doing better than last month? We actually match up bank deposits from the prior 3 months on every day of the month. So we know if we're ahead or behind a previous month. Because if there's not a lot of money in the bank account, you want to know why. You want to know why. Have we fallen asleep the first 10 or 15 days in the year, and now we're suffering the pains of that? We got to take some action if that's the way it is. And we compare all those things to the previous month. We do year by year, year to year comparisons on monthly billing. We look at the financials, how we were doing last year, bill paying weekly, revenue per client, revenue per referral source you may want to measure. It's very hard. We don't do that, but I think that's a legitimate thing that you want to know who are your valuable referral sources. Again, stay away from this concept of I kind of know who they are. You don't know who they are. You need data. You got to have data. Uncollectible receivables, who owes you money. That comes right off your billing software. If you have it, it's very simple, and you have to know that in AR reports, accounts receivable reports. There's a whole presentation we can have on just collecting on bills, but I would just tell you that I repeatedly tell people in the law business, you sort of relax and you don't really want to offend clients, so you wait till they get 60, 90 days, and you got to call the client, hey, you're behind. You know what I mean? That's the worst possible way to collect on bills. If you teach the client that it's not important to you to pay in 30 days, trust me, it's never going to be important to them. It'll never be important to them. So depending on what your retainer letter says, whether they're supposed to pay upon receipt or they pay in 10 days, maybe you give them 25 days, maybe you call them at 30. You have to call them at 30. So they have to know they're late, and they have to know 30 days doesn't, it's like the outside window. If you wait to 90 days, trust me, you've trained them, they won't pay you quicker than 90 days. Again, we're talking about the management component of the business plan. What are you going to measure? You're going to measure appointments per week, number of inbound calls, maybe sources of clients, calls, who's the referral sources, how many new clients do you sign up, collecting fees to a particular marketing effort. That's really the goal. If you spend money in advertising or marketing efforts, you want the data to know what's working and what's not working. If it's not working and you're okay with it and you want to keep spending the money, I can't tell you that's a bad idea. It's not an economically good idea. But there's sometimes you do that. There's sometimes you have to do that. You get repeat work from existing clients. You get referrals from existing clients. What's the results of your traditional marketing? Just good old-fashioned networking. Which marketing efforts create the call, and how many new files are open per month based on the marketing effort? Again, what are we doing? We're talking about data to manage the firm. This HR stuff is going to come up in another part of your business plan, but you got to have a booklet of employee handbook for vacation days, personal PTO days, payroll overtime. It's pretty complicated, but it has to be done. Bonuses paid to attorneys, establishing billing revenue goals, performing comparisons monthly, daily. The utilization is, if your attorneys are in 8 hours a day and they're billing 4 hours, that's a 50% utilization. If that's your goal and that works, and your economics of your firm work like that, that's fine. But you don't know it until you measure it, until you know exactly where you're at. And hate to say it, I think you should also track client complaints, because sometimes you feel like you know who the attorney is in your office that doesn't return phone calls, and you know how that upsets clients. But if you have a way of tracking that, you will have some definitive documentation and evidence in case you got to terminate the employment of somebody at the office. Pretty simple. How do we become what we are not? What are your top 3 to-dos for next year? That'll be part of your 1-year goals, but trust me, discriminate, make your goals manageable sized. Don't try to fix everything in a short period of time. Concentrate on changing the culture around the office. to fix a couple of things at a time. Operating manuals for all the positions, and then this is going to look a little bit like the measurement things that I just talked about in the management role. Employment policies is very important around your office. You know, there's large corporations that hire lawyers just to work in the HR department. Okay, so now here we are, lawyers. We hire people, and we could do a crappy job at knowing the laws that surround HR. It's unbelievable. Okay, so you have to get smart on this, and you have to be a little bit kind of sharp and have these ideas in your business plan so you know how to handle things. Get an employee handbook. Get an employee handbook, and you need to know what to say when you're interviewing people. You need to know the things you can and cannot say when you have to terminate somebody. You need to know what you cannot and should say when somebody calls you for a reference. Get smart on this. It's a complicated area of the law. If you came out of undergrad as an English major and then you became a family law lawyer, you may have no experience in this at all. And yet, because you're a lawyer, you just think you're going to wing it. You're going to be okay at it. Doesn't work that way. It's a complicated area, and it could cause a problem. Get your policies in place for bonuses paid to attorneys, employees, for clients, origination. Establish billing and revenue goals, performing comparisons, daily billing and weekly billing and utilization. The employee part, I put in the business plan because it's important. It's not extraordinarily big in terms of what your business plan should say. The next one, marketing and lead generation, is critically important. Go to the library, go to the ABA website on publications, and there is no bigger section of books, publications, opinions, articles than on generating new clients. It is huge. It is huge. Now, we're going to fly through a bunch of topics on this, and I can't tell you what your policy should be. I'm going to tell you, you have to develop a policy on these things. You need to develop a policy on marketing and lead generation. By the way, remember, what we really want to design in our firms and in our business plan is a system, You know what? Our law office would be a fraction of the size of it is if it was just me going out and trying to generate business. We have a system in our law office, and it's culturally institutionalized that everybody follows the system, And this is our beliefs. These are the things that are very important. First of all, whenever I speak on this topic, I tell everybody, the website is the base. It is the absolute base. Trust me, when somebody comes in to talk to you about their case, they've checked you out already. They've Googled you, and the Google will bring them to your website first. So there's no way getting around it. If there's some articles on you, or if the media has covered you in any way, they'll have read them. But trust me, they've looked at your website. See, your website better be your message that you want them to get. Okay, that's the base. Traditional networking. So figure that out and figure out where you're at with that. Second thing, traditional networking. It'll never go away. I still go to chamber events. We got people going to Rotary at our office, doing all the things that you got to do to meet people. I go to industry groups, not only to speak, just to go. And there's a process for that. How to talk to somebody at these events. Don't let the conversation linger longer than 10 or 15 minutes. More like 10, and say, hey, I don't want to tie up all your time. Here's my business card. I got to go talk to these other folks. Let's hook up later for lunch. That's called the advance. And then when you line up the advance, you have to then do a little bit of research on the person and be an intelligent speaker about what's in common. Make some small talk, but don't go to a social event and get hung up with one person for an hour or half hour. You got to hit and run. And everybody says, we're lawyers, like, give out your cards. That's half of it. Get cards. Then we put them into a database, And we send out signals to these folks all the time that's interesting to them in their field of business. If they're lawyers, if they're a real estate lawyer, if I got something to tell them on real estate, I'll send it to them. But I have lists, special lists for bankers, accountants, financial people, and lawyers, because we do some narrow areas of law that nobody else does. So I send out that information to lawyers, because if they got a person that's got a very funky federal tax lien or a problem at the Department of Revenue in our state, I want them to think of us first. Social media networking, we can go at length on that. You have to be careful. There's a lot to say and a lot to do on that. Commit to 2 platforms max. Don't try to be all things to all people. Certainly LinkedIn seems to be the most popular among business professionals. Maybe you go to Facebook, maybe Twitter. It's up to you. Again, don't kill yourself being all things to all people, but just be there. Just be there. A different client is going to follow you on Facebook than one that's going to follow you and look for you on Google. A social person who needs something like that's not an emergency, like estate planning, might get prompted to call you on Facebook. If a person got pulled over last night on a DUI, they're not waiting to go surfing Facebook to find you. They're going to Google DUI lawyer in your area. That's how they're going to find you. So it's a different client. You got to analyze who your client is and who you're trying to reach when you try to find the social media platform that matches that client. Referral sources. I spoke earlier about a goal of getting 5 referral sources a year. I've asked the rhetorical question many times in front of crowds, would you rather have a client or a referral source? Most people get it. You would rather have a referral source. A referral source can bring you clients for the rest of your career as opposed to a one-off. And trust me, what is the client that we're talking about? Because all clients are different depending on the practice area that you're in. When I tell you that people of wealth talk among themselves as to who their estate planning lawyers are, I think they do. And there will be some of that referrals from existing clients in estate planning. I am telling you, from 30 years of existence of practicing in the federal tax area, nobody goes to a party and tells their friends about their $250,000 federal tax lien and the great lawyer that they hired in Schaumburg, Illinois. Okay, they don't do that. They don't do that. Nor do they tell their friends about their 3rd DUI and how they're gonna set you up with a great DUI lawyer. So it's different practice groups do refer in different areas. So you got to analyze that in your referral sources. I kind of always give this example too. Now, if I need a estate plan and I'm going to get a divorce, okay? So the 3 of you are divorce lawyers, and I'm going to interview all 3 of you. You're all competent. You don't got your degrees and say you've been practicing, but I'm going to eventually hire one of you for some reason that you don't know, and subconsciously I don't know. Okay. The reason I hire one of them is because I like them, I trust them, and I think they can help me. There's something unique about them that makes me like them, trust them, and think they can help me. That's their unique selling proposition. Unique selling proposition. There's a guy in Illinois, I'm telling you, I love his model. Every one of his ads for divorce is dad's rights. Dad's rights. And he goes out to the market only taking male cases with kids. That's it. That's it. I mean, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I don't know that he has any female clients, and I don't know that he has any male clients without kids. I was at a seminar one time for lawyers on marketing, and this is what the guy said. He said, "Your elbow's killing you. Your elbow's killing you." So you're like, "That's it. I got to see a doctor." You look in the yellow pages. The seminar was quite a long time ago, as you can tell. He said, "Look in the yellow pages." So I need an orthopedic doctor. I need an orthopedic. So I'm going through the orthopedic doctors. Holy cow. Knees, ankles. I don't need that. I don't need a guy for my arm. You look through the arms, guys. Well, there's a guy for shoulders. There's a guy for elbows. There's a guy for wrists. I need the elbow guy. So now my list keeps getting smaller. Look at the elbows. Oh, there's no, holy cow, there's a guy who says he specializes in tennis elbow. I hurt my elbow playing tennis. That's my guy. And that's the guy you call. I tell you that story only that as a client, a customer of ours, I don't want to hire somebody that's going to be practicing on me. I want to hire somebody that has done it, who's great at it, who specializes in it, who just does just that kind of work. So when you think about a unique selling proposition, you got to think about being that narrow person in the marketplace where you really do become great at something and you sell your services accordingly. Yellow pages, although we can joke about it, go to your local yellow pages and there's still a ton of attorney ads in them. And the kind of ads they are pretty obvious. They're going to be personal injury, bankruptcy, and maybe some divorce. Those are folks a lot of times that just aren't networked tremendously and don't have neighbors to go to and friends and circles, and they're hiring a lawyer for the first time in their life, so they will go to the yellow pages. Internet searches, Google, what can I tell you? That starts all the time with that nowadays. Marketing letters, direct mail, it's dead. Go to your mailbox. How much junk do you get in your mailbox? I think people do not look at that stuff as much as they used to. Public relations. If you win a great case, you have confidentiality issues that you cannot necessarily publish that and hire a public relations firm to get that out. You have to be very careful with that. But that's not the stuff that people in your community care about either. They care about a divorce if the last name is Kardashian. They don't care about a divorce if the last name is Smith and they live down the street. But they will care about reading a story about you that have started a coat drive or helped somebody out. I was given a talk at one of the law schools, and I was the guy there that, got a medium-sized law firm, and there was a woman starting out. She's just 1 or 2 years out of law school, and she talked about starting a recycling program in her town. And I'm like, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. She's adding value to the community on her own system. She's getting PR for it. And that is a change that the community cares about. And the press will run with that and people will read that. And now they're connecting that woman's law firm with something good, a real game changer in the community. Public speaking, I think it's really worthwhile. When I got out of law school, I did the local library circuit. Every library around, if they had a slot, I'd talk in it. And it got my name out there. It got me comfortable talking in front of people, topics I care about. And I think it has great value. Community development, branding, you got to get your name out there. Billboards, TV, radio, very expensive. It seems to be a sort of a one-dimensional kind of route for personal injury lawyers. I don't see a lot of other law being advertised nor being successful. You don't drive down the expressway, see a lawyer on the billboard and go, I got to call him for my acquisition of a new product line. It just doesn't happen. Just doesn't happen. Build a marketing culture around the firm. Everyone's got to do it. Lead conversions. Ask yourself, people come in, all our work starts with a phone call. How is that phone call processed? You know what I can't stand? I can't stand when I call a receptionist and they go, can I talk to John Smith? And they go, 1 second, I'll put you right through. They put me right through to John Smith's voicemail. I can't stand it. Why don't you just come back and say, John Smith's not in? Can I take a message or should I put him in your voicemail? I would have a different plan if I knew I was going right in the voicemail. So how does that incoming call look? Get the client in the office. On the inbound call, don't spend more than 10 minutes on the phone call with somebody. It's a complete waste of time. If they're not going to commit 1 hour to come in to your office, they're not interested in hiring you. Go call your doctor, tell them about your sore throat, and tell them to give you a prescription over the phone. They'll never do it. If you can't come into a doctor's office, then you really don't need the doctor's help. I mean, that's the way I view it. Our initial consultation's free of charge. I could take both sides of that argument. I'm very good at it. I know people should pay for that. And yet I know we don't charge for that, but the answer lies in what the market in your area demands. So if there's 5 divorce lawyers and you're one of them and 4 of them don't charge for initial consultations and you charge a couple $100 for initial consultation, you're cutting off a large portion of the people who would otherwise come see you. Now you can counter and tell me, yeah, but the one who comes sees me really is a good client because they're willing to pay for my advice. I bet that's true. The problem is you're going to miss 80% of them. You're going to miss 80% of them. There's a universal lead conversion process. Engage with the client. Don't assume the client's pre-sold. Evaluate the initial interview. How's your first impression? Please, when they come in their office, the waiting room or the conference room where you meet them's got to look spiffy. It's got to look good. I mean, I went in with a client one time to another guy's office. We sat in the conference room, and there were piles of paper just all over the place, all confidential information in the conference room where people were coming in all the time. It was just disgusting. It was just terrible. It led for a really bad first impression in this other attorney's office. The reception area had boxes of files and stuff in it. Just think about, what does the client expect from a lawyer? And do you deliver that? And do you deliver that? Okay. Show interest immediately, treat clients with respect, don't patronize them. Realize that many clients are smarter than you, not in the law, but they're smart people out there, and you need to address it that way. And by all means, when I talk to a group of young lawyers, I tell them, be a good listener. I don't know what it is with lawyers sometimes. If you name a topic, a lawyer will just start going off at length about everything they know about that topic. I mean, the client doesn't want to hear it. The client wants to hear answers to their questions. You have to listen. You have to listen carefully, and you have to answer their questions. It's really important. And then get the emotional message across. Get them comfortable that they're at the right place. That reinforce your promise to the market or your unique selling proposition. Show your clients through words about and actions about that you care about their case. Be empathetic. Be empathetic. Being empathetic means try to put yourself in their shoes and their emotional tie-up. Okay, if they've got a bad thing going on in their life, be empathetic. But be the lawyer and the professional in the room too. They're not mutually exclusive. You can feel their pain a little bit, but you got to be truthful with them, and they're coming to you to solve the problem. And if you listen to them carefully, you will be able to solve the problem and yet still feel some of their pain. Explain to the client why you think you're the right law office and a good fit. Determine what they need. Again, where are we at here? We're doing the business plan. The client has called. You've gotten them in the office. Now you have to convert them to a fee-paying client. What does the client really want? You have to be the attorney in the room. Ask them if they've ever hired a lawyer before, if something's went wrong, and try to be the person that who can solve their problem. What did I say earlier? They have to like you, they have to trust you, and they got to believe that you can help them, and you have to convey that to them. Listen carefully to the client. When in doubt, you might ask the client, what would you do? The client may ask you, what would you do if you were in my position? They ask you that a lot. And as professionals, we tend to want to give them every possible path their case may take. And I'm going to tell you, when you do that, you will overwhelm them with decisions and the complexity of the case. I think you have to tell them the good parts of their case. You have to be honest with them and tell them that some of these things may not pan out. You may have to tell them, I believe you. I believe everything you're saying. But now when we talk to the other side in discovery, we're going to get another story. So I have to see that before I could truly evaluate the case. But above all else, they're going to ask you what you think you should do, and you should tell them their options and tell them that what you think is the best plan with enough qualifiers so they don't come back later and say, you told me I was going to win this case and I win this case. So you just got to be careful on that. And you know that. Do not sell the client, help the client. Be there to help them in any way you can and give them that roadmap. Remember when I told you there are these choices? The most logical roadmap is going to go this way. We're going to file an answer. We're going to ask for this in discovery. We're going to go this route, and here's how it's going to go. Be ready to sign up the client on the first meeting. Get everything you need from them as you kind of go along, And if the client's not ready to write a check at the first meeting, ask them when you can expect the check and assign retainer. If the client's vague about it, just say, can I get back to you in a week or 10 days and see what you're thinking about, or if you have any other questions, follow up on that. Client fulfillment and satisfaction, we're on number 7 of the 8 things that we have to cover. Just remember, this exceed expectations is kind of colloquial, and I'm always sort of like careful with that, but hear me out here. Don't set the bar here and never hit it, okay? Set a reasonable bar and always try to exceed it. So when you tell a client, I'm going to call you on Friday, unless there's a tsunami in your area, you got to call them on Friday. You got to call them on Friday. And I tell everybody, the young attorneys in our office in particular, living through, my parents getting old, my dad passed away. But when my mom would say the doctor's going to call on Friday with the tests, literally, I think they were sitting around the telephone waiting for the phone to ring. Okay. Now, I'm not putting us in the categories of doctors. They're delivering life and death news, but trust me, we're pretty close. And when we tell a client we're going to call them on a certain day, you got to call them. You got to call them. Even if you tell them, I got no news for you. I expected to have news for you. I have nothing. I have nothing. But let me call the other attorney. Let me do this and this what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to solve it for you. So please take those flip it statements and make them ironclad promises that we kind of tend to make to each other. When I give an assignment to another attorney and he or she says, yeah, I'll have it to you by Friday, I go mark my calendar on Outlook and say, I'm going to get these documents from so and so on Friday because I'm holding them to it. That's a level of integrity that you have to be successful in this business. And your word matters, and you have to stick to it. It's always good to have a relationship manager. Always make sure the client is always on the firm newsletter. Talk to them on a regular basis. Make sure the client's email address is on all the email blasts. Make sure the client, when engaged in a legal matter in your office, is a good relationship with the support staff, and the support staff is answering timely phone calls. We take the clients out to dinner for thank yous on cases afterwards. We want to make sure they understand that we appreciate the business. I closed the deal literally yesterday, and I parted with the 2 clients by shaking their hand and saying the exact same thing. I just said, hey, thanks a lot for the work. This was a great project. I appreciate it. And they're business guys, and they understand that I meant it. I really appreciate the work. And that goes a long way with every client, whether you're parting ways after a divorce has been entered, you closed out a matter on estate planning, just say, hey, thanks. We really appreciate the work. And that will go a long way with clients, trust me. Firm culture is a topic that I can go on for days on. It sounds like it's a real soft science, that it's sort of like the way you carry yourself, but it's not. It's your North Star. It is your constitution. It is what you believe in. So, short story, if I told you, somebody's an estate planning lawyer, and I said, well, why do you come to work every day? And they go, well, I do wills and trusts for people. And I would say, why? And they say, well, it makes people plan for the disposition of their assets. Well, why? Why is that so important? Well, the more they put in writing, the less fighting there will be by the children after the parents die. Well, why is that important? Well, those kind of fights break up families. That break up families, and the children will never speak to themselves again. Well, why is that important? Because it keeps the family continuity going beyond the parents passing away. And when you keep asking yourself why, just short of because I want to improve the world, you probably got there. You probably got there. I can go through the same exercise with a criminal lawyer. Why do you represent criminals? Well, because they have rights too. Well, big deal. I mean, they're criminals. Well, no, because if we didn't assert their rights, slowly the rights would be eroded and the governments would start crushing not only them, but then if we didn't assert the rights of everybody, innocent people would start to get taken advantage of by the government and law enforcement. So when you when you have a person with a passion to do what they do and they're doing it for the right reason, if they can get that culture and they get enough wave behind them of people, everyone will know why they're going to work for this particular law firm. And I think there's a lot of merit to that. Um, so the exercise of building a culture has to do with what's your North Star, why do you do what you do, and what are some of the rules that you put in place around the office, which we call our pillars of doing that. And you will stand by those no matter what the economy does, and you will live by them forever. And you will build a cult-like culture where everyone understands it. It's not just doing it, it's talking about it, it's living it, and it's everybody becomes ingrained. And you make decisions also about your particular culture in the office to make sure everybody understands what you're doing. Is there any time, does anybody have any questions and want to talk about anything? Yes. Yep. Yep, great question. Great question. The question is, as you set your 1, 5, and 10-year plan, and then you finish the first year, do you then go reset another 10-year plan so it's always moving? The answer is probably not in my case, okay? We kept the 5 and the 10-year alone, but every year we would reset the 1-year plan. If we came up short after 1 year, we'd assess why we did. Maybe we found out it wasn't that important, or we just swung and missed. And then we reset it for the new 1-year plan. And then I would reset the 5-year plan at the 5-year increment and make sure that we're on track to make sure we hit the 10-year. If we missed on the 5-year, we probably do have to reset our 10-year or at least some of those goals. Give me some more questions. Yes, sir. Yeah, funny. The point is having these abilities to have conversations with your children. That's an art in and of itself. Families have asked me, when do I tell my kids about having the wealth and what's going on? And there's no real magic potion there. It's like when they're mature enough to understand it. And what else are you going to say with that message? That it's not yours until we die. We're going to share it a little bit while we're still alive. And those questions about family wealth are just very complicated. Yes. Yep. Well, it works. It works for us because we have sort of a culture of family in our office, and we don't ask attorneys to grind out 2,000 hours a year. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely not. Um, So if you're billing 6 hours a day or 30 hours a week, there's enough breathing room in there to be able to get out and market also, market, write articles, go to breakfasts. I had an old timer one time tell me, it's not easy. But you know what? I did tell some young attorneys, you know what? We were in law school at one time, and whether overtly or kind of subtly, everybody wants to get the highest grades they can to work for the big law firms. Okay. So if you land that cream puff job and you get a job, I'm in the Chicago area with a big law firm in Chicago. I'm working for them and I'm billing and I'm working 70 hours a week, okay, I would tell you I want to work for myself and work less than 70 hours a week and put my sweat in to be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish under my sort of goals and my sort of thing. So if working at the big firm, billing all those goals hours is good, then that's for you. If you can't, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's very difficult. And pardon? Well, as we have kind of determined over 30 years that 1,500 hours a year is doable, and it gives an opportunity to grow. If you want to just be an Indian and just sit behind the desk and bill and you're great at it, we think there's probably more that you can offer, but that person's a good person too. I was going to say one thing on that. Let me just get this one real quick. Old timer one time told me, I was just a couple years out of law school. He said, I never eat lunch alone. I never eat lunch alone because I got to market and I got to eat lunch. So it doesn't take time away from the early morning. It doesn't take time away from the end of the day, but he goes out and sets up marketing lunches in the middle of the day. You had a question or somebody did? The partner, the partner. Well put. In fact, in the new book by Kerry Lavelle, you led it. You said, I didn't bring it up. It's called the Early Career Guide for Attorneys. And I take the exact same position that your first client is the partner signing you the job. And you got to knock the ball out of the park. Yeah. Funny. Yes.
Is actually from online. Let's see here. It's Henry Castillo, and he asks a few questions, so just answer them as you can. How much time do you spend with a prospective client during a free consultation? What percentage of free paid consultations actually become paying clients? And then how do you determine the price of legal services?
Okay, number one, if the client comes into the office, if you're spending more than 1 hour with them, you're letting them control the meeting and you're not controlling the meeting. Don't ever let it go beyond an hour. How many of them convert to clients? It depends on the practice group. We're almost clicking at 95% conversion ratio on estate planning, and we're clicking at 25 to 30% on divorce law. Divorce clients just come in and kick the tires and want to learn a lot. So it depends on the practice group. All the other practice groups are way over 50%, 70%-ish. And then how do you determine the fee? Our firm is largely hourly. There's only a few set things we do on a fixed fee basis. One is residential real estate. Two is incorporations and LLCs, and that's just the core work of organization. That's not the operating agreement and the other agreements that go along with that. And then there's some immigration work that we do on a flat fee basis. Everything else is hourly. The question becomes how much retainer you ask for. That's market driven. And I know we're short on time. Unemployment law. You mean for an individual who is terminated from their job, or for the company? For individual? Yeah, the question is, if you do free consultations on employment law for being a plaintiff lawyer and somebody who lost their job, you'd be just on a treadmill and you're giving away information. The truth of the matter is, many of those cases, they're not as lucrative as people think they are. And the point is they come in, they get their questions answered. I'm not changing our policy on that because I would rather be honest with somebody and let them know where they're at. In our view, I'm not an employment lawyer, but we've got employment lawyers. And if they want to get a second opinion, we'll actually send them to somebody else to get a second opinion. And On those kind of cases early on, what we do tell them, go by yourself and file with the EEOC, because you don't need an attorney. If you want us to go with you for the interview, when they interview you for the facts, we will go with you and see if the EEOC will act as your lawyer in that process and see where it lands. Worst thing can happen is you will not succeed. You'll get what's called a right to sue letter, and then you go in a federal district court. Are we running late on time?
Yeah, that was great. So I want to thank Kerry again for sharing his time and thoughts today. How can people keep in touch with you?
Go online, lavellelaw.com. We got a website. Check out the new website. It just rolled out in the last month. Send me your comments on it, actually, to be honest with you. We think we improved it, and that's the easiest way. All our contact information is on the website, lavellelaw.com, and I'd love to hear from you.
All right, thank you, Kerry, for being my guest today, and thank you all for attending the CLE Build Your Business Plan for Success with Kerry Lavelle. Have a great day. Bye.
Good. Thank you.